Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today we're tackling mesenchymal stem cells, MSCs,
Oh, these are fascinating.
aren't they? We're using this great article from Assay Genie. It's called Mesenchymal Stem Cells, Navigating the Frontiers of Regenerative Medicine.
It's definitely a hot topic.
So let's get into it. What are these MSCs and why all the buzz?
Well, you can think of them like the body's repair crew, stem cells ready to step in and become different types of cells as needed.
Okay, so like a blank slate.
Exactly. They have this amazing ability called multipotency. Means they can differentiate into bone cells, fat cells, even cartilage.
So they can literally help rebuild those parts of the body.
Exactly. Think about it. Fractures, osteoarthritis, all sorts of possibilities.
Wow, so you tell me my own, like, fat cells could one day fix a bum knee.
Well, maybe not quite yet, but we're getting
Yeah.
there. And that's just one part of what makes MSCs so cool. They also have this thing called immunomodulation.
Okay, now that one sounds complicated.
It is complex, but bear with me. Imagine, right, your immune system. It's like a guard dog, always watching for trouble. But sometimes that guard dog gets a little overprotective, starts attacking the body itself.
So that's where the autoimmune stuff comes in.
Bingo. MSCs, they can actually calm down that overactive immune response.
Like telling the guard dog, easy there, fella.
Yeah, perfect analogy. This is why MSCs are so promising for conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis. Instead of just shutting down the whole immune system, which leaves you vulnerable, MSCs could provide a more targeted approach.
Okay, that makes sense. But hold on, the article also mentioned something called the secretome. What's that all about?
Oh, the secretome is like a cellular toolbox.
Hmm.
It's filled with these powerful molecules, growth factors, cytokines. Think of them as signals telling the body to repair itself, build new blood vessels.
So they're not just passively waiting around to become new cells, they're actively sending out repair messages.
You got it. It's a multi-level healing process.
That's amazing. But where do we even get these miracle cells from? I always thought stem cells were mainly in bone marrow.
Well, that was the first place we found them, but it turns out MSCs are more versatile than that. We find them in fat tissue, umbilical cord blood, even dental pulp.
So lots of potential sources.
Makes them much more accessible for research and treatment.
Okay, so we have these multi-talented cells. They can regenerate, they can calm down the immune system. It's no wonder everyone's so excited about them.
For sure. And that excitement is leading to research across so many fields. We're talking heart disease, neurology, wound healing. It's really incredible.
Sounds like a perfect segue to our next section. Let's dive into some specific examples of how MSCs are being used to tackle some of the biggest challenges in medicine. We'll be back after a short break.
So, ready to dive into some applications?
Oh, absolutely. Let's start with the heart. Was really interested in how MSCs could help with things like heart attacks and heart failure.
Yeah, that's a big area of research right now. After a heart attack, you often get damage and scarring in the heart muscle.
All right, that makes sense.
And that scar tissue, it messes with the heart's electrical signals, makes it harder to pump blood effectively.
That's where MSCs come in, right? They can actually help fix that damaged tissue.
Exactly. They can actually promote the growth of new blood vessels, a process we call angiogenesis.
Angiogenesis, okay.
It's like, imagine building new roads to bypass a traffic jam,
Mm.
right? Those new blood vessels, they bring oxygen and nutrients to the damaged area, helping it to heal.
So it's not just repairing the damage, it's also boosting the blood supply to help the heart recover.
Exactly. And on top of that, MSCs can actually differentiate into heart muscle cells themselves.
Wow, so they're multitasking.
They really are.
Yeah.
This is a huge step forward in how we treat heart disease. But it doesn't stop there. Let's talk about neurology.
Okay, yeah. I was fascinated by the potential for MSCs to treat things like Parkinson's, strokes, even spinal cord injuries.
Right, conditions that have been really tough to treat effectively.
Exactly.
But MSCs, they offer some real hope. One of the key things here is their neuroprotective effect.
Neuroprotective, meaning?
Basically, they act like bodyguards for your neurons. They protect them from further damage and even encourage new nerve cell growth.
So it's like they're calming the storm in the brain after an injury.
Perfect analogy. This is especially important in strokes, where you need to act fast to minimize damage.
So it's like giving the brain a second chance to heal.
In a way, yeah. And then, of course, there's the whole autoimmune angle we talked about earlier.
Right, those cellular peacekeepers.
So in autoimmune diseases, the immune system is attacking the body itself. MSCs can step in and help retrain that immune system, teach it to tolerate those tissues again.
So instead of just suppressing the whole immune system, which can cause other problems, It's a more targeted approach.
Precisely. Think of it as fine-tuning instead of just hitting the mute button.
That could be life-changing for so many people.
Absolutely. It's still early days, but the research is really promising. And we're not even done yet. MSCs are also being studied for wound healing, even in dermatology.
Yeah, the article mentioned speeding up wound healing, tissue regeneration. That could be huge for chronic wounds, burns, skin grafts.
It's like giving the body an extra boost to heal itself.
And of course, we can't forget about orthopedic.
Ah, yes, the ability to differentiate into bone and cartilage cells. This is huge for treating fractures, cartilage problems, osteoarthritis.
Imagine being able to regenerate bone and cartilage like that.
It could revolutionize how we approach those conditions.
It all sounds incredible. But I know there are also challenges. The article talked about heterogeneity, for one.
Right, heterogeneity. Basically, it means that not all MSCs are the same.
Oh, interesting.
Depending on where you get them from, they can have slightly different properties.
So bone marrow MSCs might act differently than, say, fat tissue MSCs.
Exactly, and that makes it harder to standardize treatments. We need to figure out how to make sure the MSCs we use are consistent so we can predict how they'll behave.
So we know we're getting the same results every time.
Exactly. And that leads us to another important issue, safety.
Right, because while MSCs are generally safe, there's always the potential for long-term risks.
Of course. One concern is the possibility of tumor formation. It's something researchers are looking at very closely.
So we need to be cautious, do lots of long-term studies to make sure we're not doing more harm than good.
Absolutely. Patient safety is paramount. And then there's the question of dosing and delivery.
Ah, right. How many cells do you use? Where do you inject them? When do you administer them?
All those factors can influence how effective the treatment is.
So it's a complex puzzle, and researchers are still working it all out.
It's a reminder that we're still in the early stages, but the potential is enormous.
It's amazing to think about what the future holds. I mean, we've talked about treating diseases, but what about enhancing human capabilities? Could MSCs help us live longer, be stronger, smarter?
It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it?
It is. I mean, we're talking about potentially extending lifespan, maybe even enhancing human abilities. It's almost science fiction.
Right. But it's getting more real all the time, and that raises some serious ethical questions. Imagine, being able to use MSCs to repair age-related damage, basically slowing down aging.
Wow.
Would that be a good thing? I mean, sure, living longer sounds great, but what about the impact on resources, population?
Yeah, overpopulation is a huge concern.
And it goes even deeper than that. What about the natural cycle of life and death?
It's a lot to consider.
And it's not just about lifespan either. What if we could use MSCs to, say, enhance cognitive function, improve athletic performance? Where do we draw the line between therapy and enhancement?
It's like we're stepping into uncharted territory.
We are. These are questions philosophers have been debating for centuries, but now science is making them real, and we need to be ready.
It's a whole new world. This deep dive has been amazing. The potential of MSCs is just incredible. It feels like we're witnessing the birth of a new era in medicine.
I think you're right. It's an exciting time to be in this field.
For sure. So to our listeners, we'll leave you with this thought. As these therapies continue to develop, what are your hopes? What are your concerns? How do you think MSCs will shape the future of medicine? It's a conversation we need to have as a society. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of mesenchymal stem cells.